How does someone who's been in the technology industry for decades and understands innovation and understands a business cycle, what is AI right now?
Well, that's a great question, Alex, and it remains good being with you guys again. It's always a pleasure to be with you, especially on a beautiful afternoon. It's great to be in my office, not outside playing golf or something. But on a more serious note, no, I think that the best way to think about this, and I can draw parallels to the internet if you like, but we're still in the early stages of AI. And if you go back to the early days of the internet, what happens is phases. It begins with the enablers, and that would have been back then Netscape, Sun, Cisco, and AT&T. Today, you would put the enablers as the Microsoft, NVIDIA's, AMD, Anthropic's, the chip guys, et cetera, the foundational model guys. And then it moves to the adopters over time, but that's time. And that, if I go back to the internet, that would have been Meta, Amazon, DoorDash, Netflix. And then the next phase would be people that applied innovation to the technology, and that would be the Ubers, the Netflix, the Airbnbs, et cetera, and DoorDash, you know. So that's the phases of this thing, and so far it's repeating itself. And we are in the early phase. There's no doubt about it. So the enablers are going to continue to, my opinion anyway, do well. Now, I mean, you guys know markets. I can't speak to valuations of what happens day to day. But long-term trends, I've seen this thing. I saw it in the early days of client server. I've been at this industry for like 50 years. So this isn't my first time to kind of view these transitions.
So Sam, is the real boost in efficiency going to come from Romain and I using it on our phones, or is it going to come from like entirely new business lines and rethinking the way we fundamentally do things?
Alex, I tell you, that's a very interesting insight, because if you look at what's going to happen short term, if I quote McKinsey estimates of this sort of thing, they value the Gen AI, that's got the adoption in the early stages of it, in 4 key areas. That's customer operations, marketing and sales, software engineering, and R&D, i.e. productivity in a word. So they're saying the first phase will be productivity. That also could be productivity to the user on the phone, by the way, as far as their user experience, booking reservations or whatever it happens to be. It could be simplified by the application of AI. But in the enterprise itself, it's going to be more around productivity. Now, having said that, the real innovation comes, real value creation comes in the next phase. And I go back to my analogy of the internet. That's what I mentioned earlier: Uber, Airbnb, Spotify, Netflix. That is the next phase where this thing's going to take off. But go ahead, yes.
So you're seeing a lot of parallels. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want you to kind of expand on that, because, I mean, your experience is relatively unique. I mean, you came of age, at least in your career, at IBM at a time when corporate computing was really taking off, then personal computing. You were still there when the sort of the internet age came about, and now you're not with IBM anymore, but you're still around here investing in what a lot of people think is going to be that next big new technology. I don't think anyone is doubting that this might be the next big thing. I think people are kind of doubting who the winners and losers are going to be. And right now, all the bets seem to be with such a small cohort of companies.
Well, that's exactly right. And that's how it was. Go back to the internet. It's a small core that benefited initially, and then it broadened out. And it broadened out when it got to the adoption phase, not the enabling. I mean, the infrastructure build out. That's why these guys are sold out, because everybody's chasing the infrastructure build out, i.e. the hyperscalers. And they're ordering GPUs and chips like crazy, because they want to be ahead of the curve as this adoption phase or demand increases on the cloud providers, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Azure, et cetera, et cetera. That's kind of where we are in the phase. I really do think that the hard thing to predict, I mean, go back in time, even in the early days of the internet when companies were digitizing, did people think it would be impacting how you take a ride in a car, i.e. Uber, or get a room someplace, or get videos, media to place, and all that sort of stuff, or music? Nobody really conceived in the early days of the internet. It was more about digitizing things and putting your information up on the web, and maybe doing a little bit of commerce.
Yeah.
Did anybody think that little bit of commerce would be Amazon? Yeah. So the point is now, to your point, is predicting where it will go. I tell you, that's really hard. I mean, I'm an investor in this space, and we're focused primarily in areas around healthcare and around cyber and those sorts of things.
And you're seeing the substantive use or potential use of this technology, because even when you go back to the internet age, and I know there was a lot of hype and a lot of folks who were predicting things that never panned out, but I think for a lot of us, at least the laymen out there, you could actually see the tangible qualities of what they at least were trying to build. AI just seems a lot more ephemeral.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of things. First of all, let's talk about the enterprise adoption rate, where great value can be created in these enterprise companies. And guys running these companies realize they've done the pilots, they've experimented, they've done these things, and they're going to chase productivity in the short term, but they're going to drive innovation in the long term. And that's to the innovation in the enterprise. There are still limitations in the technology. I mean, for example, accuracy and transparency and validity. If you're doing financial services, or you're doing national security, or you're doing healthcare, and you're worrying about people that are going to live or die, you need those issues to be addressed. And they will be addressed. And there are a lot of startups trying to address a lot of those and those areas of inadequacy that exist today. So therefore, you see things being applied to what I call the simpler use case, like marketing, like customer service, et cetera, et cetera. I do believe it. Now, these cycles, as I go back to the internet, they're like 10 to 15 year cycles, right? So, I mean, we're in the year, 3, maybe, depending upon how you count this stuff. So, I mean, we have a long way to go. And from an investor, I mean, I'm basically a VC today. I'm not involved in large companies. I'm an advisor, but I'm not really involved day to day. Fundamentally, from a VC perspective, we're making bets in those industries where the technology could have a massive impact. For example, the delivery of healthcare or therapeutics and those sorts of things. Massive impact to improve the system, to drive productivity, to improve outcomes. That could be significant. Financial services. There's a lot of things that can be done in financial services, again, to improve value to society and value to the companies themselves.